All 32 NFL teams enter the year with expectations. Teams like the Buffalo Bills and Kansas City Chiefs entered 2022 expecting to contend for a Super Bowl title, and through 5 weeks, each team is 4-1 and have put themselves in prime position to compete and succeed in late January. However, for every team like the Bills and Chiefs, there's rebuilding teams like the Houston Texans and like the Chicago Bears who are not seriously expected to contend this year. But there are other teams that had deep postseason aspirations entering the 2022 season, and 5 weeks in, their Super Bowl chances in some cases are over, and in others are not looking good to say the least. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing the 4 most disappointing teams in 2022 relative to their preseason expectations. And there is a lot to dive into today, and without further ado, let's begin. And we are starting today's video with the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are arguably the most disappointing team out of any in today's video, and it's pretty easy to understand why. They made a franchise-altering trade this offseason for quarterback Russell Wilson, and the Russell Wilson that played at a Hall of Fame level or near a Hall of Fame level in Seattle is not anywhere close to the Russell Wilson they received. Through 5 games, Russell has just 4 passing touchdowns to 3 interceptions and has a completion percentage of just 59.4%. The 59.4% is the lowest of his career, and he is on pace for just 14 passing touchdowns over the course of a 17-game season. Not only has Russ been disappointing because, remember, this isn't just a Russell Wilson thing, head coach Nathaniel Hackett has been at times too. Between timeouts and end of halves decisions, it seems like with the Broncos there's always a "but wait, there's more" aspect, and I do not mean that in a good way. In 5 games, the most points they've scored is 23-1, and that was against the 1-4 Las Vegas Raiders. That is also the only game Russ has thrown for 2 touchdowns in any game this year, and go figure, it was in a losing effort. They've put up more than 17 points in 1 game, and they've scored the second fewest points in the NFL behind only the Indianapolis Colts. The 4th down against Indy was highlighted on social media time and time again, where Russ missed KJ Hamler, but if we're being honest, they should not have been in that situation to begin with. If you can't put up more than 9 points in a game with the weapons the Broncos have, then you have a problem offensively, and Denver most definitely does. Russ has also been sacked 16 times in 5 games, which puts him on pace to be sacked 54 times this year alone. The contract for Russ is awful, and Denver is stuck with him. The lone 2 wins they have are over the Texans, and even that win for Denver wasn't a walk in the park, as they won with a score of 16-9, and the other was an 11-10 win over San Francisco on Sunday night, in a game where Jimmy G was very much shaking the rust off, and in a game where he walked out of the back of the end zone for a Denver safety. In their 2 wins, they've combined for 27 points, and this is about as bad of a situation as you can find across the NFL, due in large part to what they gave up for Russell Wilson. The Broncos have been a disaster to start the 2022 season. Next up is the Los Angeles Rams. Heading into this season, I was worried about them for the reasons they are struggling now. The offensive line is nowhere close to what it was a year ago, and you can see that in Matt Stafford's play. He is hesitant, and he's not the same player he was during the Rams Super Bowl run. With the Broncos, there's been a lot of underperforming from the quarterback and head coach, whereas with the Rams, it's been a lot of let's do our absolute best to keep Stafford healthy for the entirety of the season. We shared the statistic with Russ with how many times he's been sacked to start the year, and Stafford's, believe it or not, is worse. Stafford's been sacked a staggering 21 times in 5 games, which is a tie for the most in the NFL, along with Colts quarterback Matt Ryan. Matt, and this is both for Ryan and Stafford, but both are currently on pace to be sacked 71 times this year, which is an enormous amount. While there is more than that fares into the game than just this stat, it is in some ways telling. There have been 2 games this year for the Rams where Stafford was sacked 1 time or less, and they won each of those games. They were in Week 2 against the Falcons and Week 3 on the road against Arizona. The other 3 games, Stafford was sacked 5 times in one and 7 times in the other 2. And if you're getting sacked 7 times in a game, regardless of however many times you turn the ball over, you are going to lose the majority of those games. No NFL team is built to withstand that many drive-killing plays. In Week 1, Stafford was sacked 7 times, which resulted in 49 yards of lost offense, and in Week 4 against the 49ers, he was sacked 7 times, which resulted in 54 yards of lost offense. Sacks are generally drive killers, and in the 2 games Stafford was sacked 7 times, the team, not surprisingly, combined for just 19 points. They lost left tackle Andrew Whitworth to retirement this past offseason and have had some injuries up front to start the year. Stafford was sacked 30 times in 17 regular season games in 2021 and has been sacked 21 times in 5 games in 2022. This statistic right here shows why teams heavily invest into the offensive line, and the Rams have played multiple teams with great pass rush, like Dallas, like Buffalo, like San Francisco, but they've combined for just 29 points in those losses, and when they've got beat, they've got beat. They weren't a 23-20 loss that they should have won, and I do think because of how they've been manhandled at times this year, the Rams have had a disappointing start to the season. The Colts are now up, and they have been especially disappointing this year. They were underwhelmed with how Carson Wentz played in 2021, and they just missed out on making the playoffs. They were in an awkward situation as a franchise, and it was, do we give everything to move up and get a Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis because they didn't have a first-round pick due to the Wentz trade? And Malik Willis was available in the second round. They were on the clock, but they ultimately did not choose him. They gave a third-round pick for Matt Ryan, and in 5 games, Ryan is off to the worst start of any season in his illustrious career. The stat line he is on pace for is something, but he's on pace for nearly 4,700 passing yards, 17 passing touchdowns, and 24 interceptions, while also on pace to get sacked 71 times. The Colts' lone 2 wins are, to me, 2 of the least impressive wins in the early part of the season because of how each of them occurred. The Chiefs' win was insane, as Kansas City not only lost the turnover battle, but missed a kick, and one of their turnovers was on a muffed punt inside their own 10, so the Colts were practically handed points. There has only been 1 game in which Matt Ryan did not throw an interception, and there has been 0 games where Ryan hasn't turned the ball over. He has 11 fumbles in 5 games, and the Colts have lost 3 of those 11 fumbles. They've been sloppy, they've been ugly, and their 2 wins represent exactly that. The win over the Broncos was the perfect way to describe how Indy's season has went. And speaking from a general fan's point of view about that Thursday night game, heading into the season, I was very much looking forward to this, as I thought it would have been a great game and a come-down-to-the-wire game where Russ and Matt Ryan each throw a pair of touchdown passes, and Jonathan Taylor and Javonte Williams play good as well. Injuries ultimately got in the way for the running backs, but Russ and Matt Ryan played like how they each have through the first 5 games. And guys, that's disappointing. The Las Vegas Raiders are up, and this was a team entering 2022 that went all in. After losing in the wild card round of the playoffs last year to Cincinnati, they were in an interesting situation because they had to hire a new head coach due to the John Gruden situation. They also hired a new general manager, and because they had a new coach and GM, they could have blown everything up or do what they did, which was go all in. And 5 weeks in, as they are currently on their bye week, things are not looking good. There are a ton of Raiders fans that vouch for Derek Carr, and there are Raiders fans who do not think he is the answer, and he isn't exactly helping himself this year in terms of being the guy. A lot of quarterbacks would kill for the supporting cast he has with Davante Adams, which we will get into in a minute, Darren Waller, and Hunter Renfrow, but in 5 games, Carr's passer rating is the lowest it's been since 2017, and its completion percentage is the lowest it's been since 2015, when he was just 24 years old. One of the biggest things with Carr is while he will make some plays, he will make some equally bad boneheaded decisions. There was an interception against the Chargers in Week 1, one of 3 he threw on the day, on a drag route, and the corner was truly in his receiver's pocket. In terms of coverage, he was right there, yet Carr still tried to force a ball into a spot he shouldn't have, and in a game the Raiders ended up losing by 1 score. Carr's turnovers entering this year were also something I was concerned about, as he threw 14 interceptions in 2021, and aside from the Week 1 game, he has been good since. Technically, Carr is on pace for 14 interceptions on the season now, but that is obviously due in large part to the outlier of a 3-interception game. But Carr is not a one-man team, and they blew a huge lead to Arizona in Week 2 when they were up 20 points in the first half and even up 23-7 in the fourth quarter. Tight end Darren Waller has also been a little disappointing this year, and Devontae has picked up the slack as he has 3 100-yard games out of 5. I can't imagine with what took place at the end of the Chiefs game, he isn't suspended for at least 1 game, which obviously does not help the team. But the defense has also been underwhelming, and they have given up the 6th most points in the NFL, and as I record this, the Washington Commanders are ahead of them, but have played a 6th game, and the Raiders have not, so in reality, that 6th most points is more like the 5th most points in the NFL. Not only have they given up a lot of points, but they've only forced 3 turnovers in 5 games, which ranks dead last. They have a bye week this week, but their 4 games coming off of the bye are the Texans, Saints, Jags, and Colts, all of which are winnable. So yes, the Raiders are 1-4 at the moment, but there is a chance they can turn it around. As of now, though, they have had a very disappointing start to the 2022 season. And that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as well as the second channel, for which the link is in the description. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.